Good day, this is Frontline News. I'm Abigail Smythe. Coming up in the newscast, opposition calls on government to return to bargaining table with public sector workers. Schools affected across the island as teachers continue their strike against the government's wage offer. Government being urged to make education top priority. Policeman shot and businessman killed in 3 separate shooting incidents. In the region, Cubans vote to elect new president. Education Minister of Barbados accuses Canadian diplomat of interfering with the country's political affairs. And further overseas, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, Under Secretary of Public Affairs Steve Goldstein, and President's longtime personal aide John McEntee all fired. Now for the news in detail. The opposition has called on the government to return to the bargaining table with public sector workers and not pay in the absence of an agreement. In his maiden budget presentation in the House of Representatives, opposition spokesman on finance Mark Golding said the government stands in breach of international laws. Marisol Salmon has the details.
His remarks come against similar positions taken by trade union groups still in negotiations with the government. The Minister of Finance last week had indicated that this would be done and there was precedence for this. The opposition took the minister to task for his offer to the government minister, who in 2015 described a $1,000 increase as an insult.
The sideman on the solid waste garbage truck earning $6,200 a week is being offered an increase of 5%, $310 a week. $310 a week. That's worse than insult. The JUTC driver earning $12,000 a week is being offered an increase of $600 a week. The lady who is an ancillary worker in a hospital or in a school earning $8,500 a week is being offered an increase of $425 a week. Mr. Speaker, where is the Shaw of 2015? I can't see him. I can't see him.
The opposition described the attempt by Mr. Shaw to give the impression that the workers were receiving large increases as disingenuous.
Mr. Speaker, but what is even more harsh was the suggestion that public sector workers have seen an average increase in their net pay of between 7% and 14% because of the 1.5. Now, Mr. Speaker, I ask you, is that not hypocrisy in the extreme? How can you say to public sector workers in February 2016 that they would benefit from $18,000 a month of more pay because of your 1.5, and then you rely on the 1.5 as your justification for denying the public sector workers a reasonable increase that will be ahead of projected inflation? How can that be? What's worse, Mr. Speaker, you have already taken it back from them in the over 30 billion of taxes, indirect taxes, that you imposed to pay for this 1.5.
Mr. Golding also warned of the international implications and suggested that the move did not belong in our democracy, but in a totalitarian regime.
This decision to pay the retroactive without concluding an agreement with those categories of workers is a big disrespect to them and their union representatives. And it's also a violation of the International Labour Organization Convention number 98 of 1949, to which Jamaica is a signatory, and a violation of the Labour Relations Code that was approved in this Parliament in 1976. Mr. Speaker, the Right Honourable, Right Excellent Alexander Bustamante, Hugh Lawson Shearer, Michael Joshua Manley, and Portia Lucretia Simpson Miller, as trade unionists and past prime ministers, would never condone this. Never.
He noted that the minister should not be wrong and strong. Marisol Salmon, Frontline News.
And for a second day, the teachers continued industrial action. This has stirred up chaos between the government, the president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, and the president of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, JCTU. Codian Barrett has that story.
With some teachers still on no-show for work on Tuesday and the government's refusal to increase their wage offer, the controversy has escalated and the government may be facing international legal scrutiny from the labor relations community. President of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, JCTU, Helene Davis White, has threatened to report the government for breaching its legal obligations under conventions of the International Labour Organization, ILO. Mrs. Davis White has labeled the government's decision as a breach of industrial relations practice and has written to Prime Minister Andrew Holness. On Monday, she warned that if things do not change, a report will be made.
This is not good industrial relations practice for an employer to go ahead and make payments outside of a signed terms of agreement. We are also of the view that the action is in contravention of the ILO convention having to do with collective bargaining, which is deemed to be a core convention of the ILO. Plus, there is a convention that speaks to collective bargaining in the public sector, and this is, to our mind, also in contravention of that convention having to do with collective bargaining in the public sector. As far as we are concerned as a confederation, if the government does not relent, then we are going to be duty-bound to report the matter on the part of the government.
If Jamaica is found to be in breach, it could be sanctioned by the United Nations and lose some privileges. In the meantime, efforts to get teachers to return to work after Monday's strike failed. Education Minister Ruel Reid warned that schools should not be closed without prior approval. Despite this warning, the ministry received information that some teachers and principals told students there would be no school on Tuesday. It says this is a violation of its instructions. In light of this, some schools received assistance from regional response teams comprising of officers from the Ministry of Education, persons from tertiary institutions, secondary school student bodies, and the National Parent-Teacher Association of Jamaica. Education Minister Senator Ruel Reid said these arrangements will remain in place on...
Yes, our policy is to keep the schools open, and we have the requisite manpower to assist schools to keep them operating as normally. Well, certainly the students would be supervised and given work to do, and we hope that we have full normality come Thursday.
Meanwhile, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Georgia War Richards, has denied reports that teachers have taken industrial action over the wage dispute with the government. War Richards insisted that instead, public school teachers were just sick. When asked whether the JTA knows the cause of the illness affecting so many teachers at once, she said the union was investigating. While the chaos continues, State Minister in the Finance Ministry, Favour Williams, argues that the actions of the teachers are unreasonable. She says the economy is at a stage where it is just picking up and increased salaries for teachers may be a strain at this time.
I think so. When you look at the history of what has happened in terms of wage negotiations, you're talking about coming out of years of zero increase on salary. You got into a period where things were a little better, and the administration was able to offer 4% and 3%. That was accepted. Here, where the economy is improving, this present government is able to improve on that offer. I think, we're moving forward. We're saying the economy gets better. There'll be opportunities to relook at salaries, I'm sure, when those negotiating periods come up.
Cody Ann Barrett, Frontline News.
Education is key. If we want a better society, it must be the primary goal. That's the word from Pro Vice Chancellor in Planning at the University of the West Indies, Dr. Denzel Williams. He said our focus on education must be towards long-term development. Kimberly Wright tells us more.
Speaking on JNN and Power 106 FM's Power Talk Live on Tuesday, Dr. Denzel Williams said education in Jamaica should be seen as top priority. He commended the educational background of the PNP's Keisha Hale and the JLP's Dr. Nigel Clark, who contested in the recent by-election held on March 5.
We take the exceptions and make them the rule, but that's what we should try to reverse, and that's what I'm asking for in most of my commentaries, an access revolution. The Nigel Clark and the Keisha Hale of this world should be the norm for Jamaica. Yeah. They should not be the exception. Yes. And I'm saying for a small country of only 2.7 million people, that should not be a big issue.
Dr. Williams explained that the education system is necessary in helping to solve societal issues such as crime, the economy, and social justice.
But what I'm generally speaking about is looking at an education continuum from preschool right up to tertiary. So when I hear the argument about substituting budgetary resources from one area of the education continuum to another, it's an argument that I actually have a problem with, because what we should be talking about is funding education in its entirety rather than substituting from one area to the next.
He added that greater planning, organization and knowledge of our educational goals and how we will achieve these goals is what will drive growth and development in our economy.
What we need to do, though, is proper planning. I don't think that we have paid a lot of attention to proper planning. We say we'll give you some resources, we expect some outcome, but between the resources and the outcome, there's a critical stage that has to be taken into consideration, which is how do you plan to move from point A to point B? What are the outcomes that you expect at point A? When point A outcomes are completed, how are you going to move to point B, and so on and so forth? That critical disciplined planning is actually needed. If we don't have that, believe me, we're going to have great visions, but they're not going to be executed. And if visions are not executed, you're not going to get the outcome. So anybody in the private sector will tell you, it's a great thing to get up on a platform and make a statement and make a great speech about what you want to do. But if you do not have the competent resources on the ground to execute on that, believe me, the vision will not be accomplished.
Okay. Dr. Williams reiterated that all sectors of the economy will benefit from an increase in educational growth. Kimberly Wright, Frontline News.
Finance Minister Audley Shaw recently reported that an additional 43,000 persons have been employed over the past 2 years and that the unemployment rate has fallen from 12.9% in October 2016 to 10.4% in October 2017, the lowest since October 2008. While the country continues to grapple with high levels of unemployment, Jamaica has boasted on the tourism and business process outsourcing (BPO) sectors as sources of employment for many Jamaicans. But human rights attorney Jodian Quarry is not impressed. She argues that the country will not get satisfactory returns on its education investment from low-paying jobs.
We still need employment. Maybe we don't want to funnel our best and our brightest from university there, but there are high school graduates or even those who haven't completed high school that will need that sort of employment, and that we will want them to move into these places of employment. Right. So we're not saying that BPO is bad for the country. We are saying that the current way of looking at BPO as the answer to where we put our university graduates at the end of their time is perhaps not the best.
Ms. Quarry states that the lack of job opportunities is forcing some of Jamaica's best and brightest young people to settle for low-level, poor-paying jobs in the BPO sector. Many university students also leave school settling in jobs that are out of their field of study, as in recent times scores of university graduates are forced to seek employment at call centers. Ms. Quarry gave her suggestion on how Jamaica can move forward in providing better quality employment for its people.
The Ministry of Education has an incredible role to play here. We can craft a curriculum that provides the necessary tools for the Jamaica we want to see in the next 10 years. How do we do that? We ask private sector individuals, not only in Jamaica but across the world, when you are hiring an employee, what are you looking for? And that may be something as simple as a Google search to find out what are companies looking for. Then crafting a Jamaica that fills those needs. We have 2.7 million people to hire. We have 2.7 million people to take care of. We, therefore, only need to find enough jobs for our working population of that 2.7.
She was speaking on JNN and Power 106 FM's Power Talk Live on Tuesday. The police and the medical staff at the Kingston Public Hospital were kept busy Monday night as the bloodletting continued in different sections of the corporate area. More in this report from Michael Sharp.
The major incidents of note started shortly after 9 p.m. on Monday. First, with the police having to rush one of their own to the Kingston Public Hospital. He's Constable Dwayne Sterling, who is attached to the Motorized Patrol Division, MPD. He was the observer in the police vehicle, MPD 87, traveling along Olympic Way. When upon seeing the service vehicle, a white motor car suddenly reversed. A chase ensued through the community and finally came to an end along Seaward Drive, where the gunmen rammed their car into this Pajero. In their bid to elude the police, they opened fire, hitting the police constable in the knee. One of the occupants of the vehicle was arrested, while the other two fled on foot. The driver of the Pajero, which is owned by Reverend Wes Leslie Blair, was being driven by Melvin Williams, who spoke to Frontline News about his experience.
I was just coming from there and I see the police chasing in the car, so I jump on the curb wall there just to save, and the car run inside there. And then from that, I just hear the police was shouting, "Get out, get out." I just hold on my head, just hear a shot. I don't know where it was coming from. Yes, I just hold on my head, sir.
The role of the police and how they behaved.
Well, I tell you, these two police was good. If they never good, I will be a dead man today.
How so? Explain that.
Well, they was actually facing me, and the car was right underneath my car. So you just think about that. Yes. So I just roll on me and I said, Jesus, that's all I could say. So when I heard cool down, I just roll over. I was very timid to come out, to be honest, because I don't want to mistake the car, but there was a female police actor there, and they said, come out, man, you're safe. Come out and sit down right beside me right now. Yes.
While the constable's injury is not considered life-threatening, it was not the same for 49-year-old businessman Uriel Harris of Greenwich Farm. Reports are that gunmen visited his shop along 3rd Street, made a purchase, and then shot him in the back. Activities at the island's main trauma center stepped up with the arrival of the first victim of a double shooting, a female from Alexander Road in Kingston 13. Her situation, on the face of it, appeared critical. Her family, who drove along in the police vehicle, were very concerned. And in another 10 minutes, the police vehicle returned with another victim from Alexander Road, a male said to be the common-law husband of the female victim. And the hope for a better day was a wish for both the police and medical staff. Michael Sharp, Frontline News.
And investigations are now underway into the discovery of a female body in Maypen Monday evening. Reports are that shortly after 5 o'clock, the body was seen in the Rayamina River in the vicinity of the Maypen Bridge. The police were summoned and the body removed. There were no unusual markings on the body. St. Anne detectives are now investigating the circumstances surrounding the discovery of the body of a man in St. Anne's Bay. The deceased has been identified as well-known retired dentist Lloyd Dalrymple. Reports are that Dr. Dalrymple's helper arrived for work around 11 Tuesday morning to find the keys lodged on the outside of the door. An alarm was raised and upon searching, Dalrymple's body was discovered floating in the sea near his home in Christie's Cove. The police are treating the matter as a suspected case of drowning. It is alleged that the dentist suffered from schizophrenia. And 3 of 5 students of the Green Island High School in Hanover have been charged with malicious destruction of property and assault. Codian Barrett has more.
In a video that has been circulating on social media, the 5th form students could be seen attacking a bus conductor with a knife and stones. As if that was not enough, they then stoned the bus. The bus driver, who sustained minor injuries, had this to say.
These students, as far as I can tell, is a set of troublemaker in the school, and this is what we are facing now in this country. We as parents, we are sending out our kids to school for them to learn. Instead, it can move from one stage of learning to a different environment in which you can find it is now impacting gang in these schools.
He assessed the damages of the bus.
We have a left window that is broken behind the doctor's chair, and the AC vent that when they throw the stone, it automatically bursts it. Okay. Based on what is going on now, the quick assessment we can do right now, we are looking at a damage approximately maybe $75,000–$80,000 worth of damage at this current moment.
Head of the Hanover Police Division, Deputy Superintendent Sharon B. Putt, said the boys remain behind bars and are to appear in court on Friday. DSP B. Putt noted that a search is underway for the other 2 students. Codian Barrett.